Hey everyone, it's Darth Nihilus here, back to you today with another video. And today I'm going to talk about the fact that Eminem should have released more songs on his first underground debut hip-hop rap album, Infinite. And I wanted to start off this video by saying that, in my personal opinion, I don't think Eminem put enough songs on even that very first official underground debut hip-hop rap album of his way back in late 1996 when he was 24 years old, which is at the age he was, or which was the age he was at when he released that album of his on November 12 of 1996. And there's only 11 tracks on that album of his. That's it. That's the only amount of tracks that are on that album of his. And one of those tracks is not even a song. It's just like a little skit or interlude, which is called We Go, like W.E.G.O. And it's in all capitals, but it's not even a song. It's, I'm guessing, like the only skit that's on that album of his, just one single skit, which to me seems kind of unnecessary, especially knowing that it's only one and every other track is actually a song. But in total there's only 11 tracks, and in my opinion I think there should have at least been 14 songs on that album of his. And the reason I say that is because most rappers, when they were releasing rap albums in, say, the late 90s, like anywhere from 1996 to 1999, I feel like most rappers were releasing albums that had more like 14 to 16 songs per, rap album that were coming out and releasing in the late 90s in that specific period of time or era, if you will. And yeah, when it comes to Eminem, when he released that very first underground debut hip-hop rap album of his called Infinite, he only released 10 songs at the most on that album of his. And the reason why I think that's such a piss-poor amount of songs is because when it came to the albums that he released later on, when he actually became a famous rapper, when it came to like his Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, and Eminem Show album, like he didn't even release that many songs on those albums of his either. At least not in my opinion, he didn't. Maybe to most of his fans and stans, he released plenty of songs on each of those albums of his, but not in my opinion. And I'm probably one of the most biggest stans, Eminem stans to be exact, in the world. I mean, I'm literally one of the most crazed, obsessed fans of his that is so addicted and fixated on him and when he released each and every single one of his rap albums, and the fact that I strongly believe that all of his rap albums should have came out earlier, even if it's just like earlier when he actually became famous. Like, I'm going to make a video series of this, but even with when he became famous, he still could have released most of his rap albums, because the only rap album of his in which that I don't mind the year he released it was his Music to Be Murdered By albums, both side A and side B. Like, I don't mind the month, day, or year that he released both of those albums of his on. But those two are literally the only two exceptions that I personally have myself. But every single other one of his albums, from his Slim Shady LP all the way up to his Kamikaze albums, I believe should have came out earlier. And there are some albums in which I wish that he would have made instead of other ones. And again, I will make a video series about that, but one after another. But the reason why I wish that he would have released at the very most 14 songs on his Infinite album is because if he would have put 14 songs in total on his Infinite album that he released on November 12 of 1996 when he was 24 years old, or in other words, in the late 90s and in his early 20s, then that would have made it so that his later albums that would have came out in the future when he would have actually became a famous rapper, he would have put and released a lot more songs on his earlier albums than he actually did originally. Because, you know, he released only 10 songs on his Infinite album, and then he only released 14 songs on his Slim Shady LP album. He only released 14 songs on his Marshall Mathers LP album, and 15 songs on his Eminem Show album. But if he would have released, say, 11 songs on his Infinite album, then he would have started off, when he would have became famous, releasing like 15 songs per each album. If he would have released 12 songs on his Infinite album, he would have then released 16 songs on his Slim Shady LP album. If he would have released 13 songs on his Infinite album, he would have put 17 songs on each and every single one of his earlier albums, from his Slim Shady LP to like all the way to Encore, which should have been a Slim Shady LP2 album, but that will be another video for the future series that I'm going to do very soon here. But you see where I'm going with this. The point I'm trying to make is, because of the fact that he only put and released 10 pathetic, pitiful songs on his Infinite album, he then, when he became a famous rapper, didn't put that many more songs on his earlier albums. And I think that was a missed opportunity, in my opinion at least, because his earlier albums were obviously, and of course, his best and greatest work that he did, his best and greatest projects that he put out and released to the world. And it's honestly really unfortunate that when it came to his earlier and much better, greater rap albums than compared to his later ones, he didn't put that many songs on his earlier albums. And there's another reason why I also strongly believe he should have put more songs on his earlier albums too. Not just because that they were better, but also because it took him, compared to most other famous rappers, or should I say most other old school famous rappers who became famous not only way before he did, but also much younger than he did, compared to the age he was at when he actually got signed to Dr. Dre's Aftermath record label company, which was at the age of 25. And then he didn't get to release his first album until he was 26. His first album as a famous rapper, that is. And because it took him so fucking long to become a famous rapper, and because he wasn't able to release his first albums as a famous rapper until he was in his late 20s, which is really unfortunate and heartbreaking, especially considering the fact that Eminem himself had been rapping since literally like the age of fucking 14, 15, 16 years old, even younger than Tupac himself did, or at least around the same age that Tupac himself did, except when it came to someone like Tupac, he became famous and released his first album when he was fucking 20 years old in 1991. And I think that's unfair. And even when it comes to most other old school rappers, whether it's Tupac or Notorious Big or Snoop Dogg or whatever, like most old school rappers were releasing their first albums when they were about like fucking 20 to 22 years old. And maybe at the very oldest 24, like within their early 20s. Like seriously, most old school rappers became famous a lot younger than Eminem did. And I mean, some old school rappers even became famous when they were in their like late fucking teens. But then when it came to Eminem himself, he didn't become a famous rapper until he was in pretty much his late 20s, which I personally feel, in my opinion at least, is unfair, incredibly unfair, because, you know, he had been rapping for a long ass fucking time before he even became famous. He had been rapping for so many fucking years and just grinding at being a rapper, and yet he didn't get discovered until he was 25 years old. Like, what the fuck? That's bullshit and just literally unfair. But at least I feel like he could have made up for that in a sort of way by putting and releasing as many songs as he possibly could have on each and every single one of his earlier albums when he became a famous rapper. Like 17 songs on his Slim Shady LP album, 17 songs on his Marshall Mathers LP album, 17 songs on his Eminem Show album, and 17 songs on his Encore album, which should have instead been a Slim Shady LP2 album and not a fucking album called entitled Encore, which was fucking stupid, dumb, retarded, and just idiotic on his part and on his move, when it would have been so much better and greater if his Encore album would have been a Slim Shady LP2 album, like it definitely should have been, and also released in the year of late 2003, when he would have been at the age of only 31 years old, and not in late 2004 when he was 32. But again, that will be another video for this future series of mine. But for this first video to start out this series, I really feel like Eminem should have released 14 songs on his Infinite album. And like I said before and earlier in this video, if he would have done that like he should have, and by him not doing that, that was a missed opportunity on his part. But if he would have done that, just think and realize the fact that if he would have put more songs on his Infinite rap album, his underground debut hip-hop rap album, before he even became a famous rapper, that would have made it so that when he became a famous rapper and started making and releasing rap albums as a famous rapper, he would have then put more songs on his later albums, which would have been a dream come true for me as a Eminem stan. But also, there's another thing that I really wish would have been different about Eminem's Infinite album as well. Not just that it would have had 14 songs on it, because also, like, his Infinite album, even though it didn't get him, like, discovered or noticed, and it flopped for him, unfortunately, but I love that album of his. Like, I really do. His Infinite album is one of my all-time favorite rap albums of his. Like, I love the beat production on that album of his, and I think it's kind of sad and a missed opportunity that when it came to the beats on that album of his, some of which literally sounded like synthwave ambient rap beats almost, that he didn't use beats similar to those on his Infinite album on his like later albums when he became famous. Like, he didn't make an album similar in any way, shape, or form to like the same or similar style or vibe or aesthetic or atmosphere or tone of his Infinite album, which I really feel like was a missed opportunity. Another thing I love about his Infinite album was the cover. The cover on his Infinite album is so fucking cool. Like, it's just seriously so fucking awesome. It's badass. It seems like mystical and just like out there, because literally if you look at the cover of his Infinite album, the cover shows all these like fucking stars and what pretty much looks like a solar system or whatever, or at least like a beautiful night sky with a bunch of stars, and then like a line going through which was supposed to be like representative or symbolic of like infinite going on forever. And it was just such a cool and unique, interesting album cover, and he never really again replicated that first album cover of his even later on in his rap career, which is really unfortunate to say the least, because he could have possibly done that with like a Slim Shady LP2 album cover that he could have and should have released in late 2003 when he was 31 years old. Like, when he made a Slim Shady LP2 album cover, he could have chose a cover similar to that of his Infinite cover, but just with like a moon in a night sky with like clouds and stars as well. And, you know, maybe some creepy looking trees or whatever for a like badass Slim Shady LP2 album cover, or at least definitely like a moon in the sky with clouds and stars would have been just totally and completely badass and similar to that of his Infinite cover. But the last thing that I wanted to say really quick in this video before I end it, the last and final thing that I really wish would have been different about Eminem's Infinite album from way back in 1996, released on November 12th of 1996 to be exact, when Eminem himself was 24 years old, I wish that album of his would have had music videos made for it. And I really feel like that was another missed opportunity on his part, along with not putting and releasing 14 songs on his Infinite album as well. Like, both of those were missed opportunities, but also the fact that he never thought to make and release any music videos for that album of his. And what's weird about that is it's his debut rap album. I mean, that album of his came out even before his Slim Shady LP album, and knowing that his Infinite album was an official rap album and not like a mixtape or an EP even, it was an album, I feel like it would have made complete and total logical sense for him to have made even at least some music videos for that album of his. And if you ask me, one of the songs that rightfully deserved to have a music video made and released for it was his Infinite song and track. The first song off of that album of his, which is literally and still is to this day one of the best rap songs that he has ever made and released on any of his albums. The beat, the lyrics, the hook, I mean, it's just so beautiful and just like mystical and out there, and just, it's just so dope. Like, words cannot even describe how amazing that his Infinite song and track is off of his Infinite album. And I think it literally was a missed opportunity on Eminem's part and the Bass Brothers' part by not thinking to make a music video for that song. But also other songs on that album of his, such as like Searching, should have definitely had a music video made for it. Let's see what else. Maxine definitely should have had a music video made for it. And possibly Open Mic, which featured D12, Eminem's old rap group, that he is no longer a part of and hasn't been a part of for a long time now, since his best friend, Big Proof, was murdered way back in 2006. Rest in peace, Big Proof, also known as Deshaun Holton, which was his real name. Because he died, Eminem stopped being a member of the rap group D12. But at the time, you know, this was way before Big Proof was sadly killed. And that was a D12 song, including Eminem, on his debut album Infinite. And I think that song is really cool as well. It could have had a music video made for it, but sadly didn't. And let's see. Tonight is another song off of his Infinite album that also could have received a music video made and released for it. So his song Infinite, his song Tonight, Open Mic, Maxine, and Searching, or at least Infinite, Tonight, Maxine, and Searching. Those 4 songs, at least, because I think 5 music videos would have probably been too much, but definitely at least 4 music videos, for sure. Infinite, Tonight, Maxine, and Searching. Those 4 songs, or tracks in other words, should have definitely, without a doubt, received music videos made and released for them, or included for them, along with the songs on that very first album of his. And also, that album of his definitely should have received a re-release as well, like on the 10th year anniversary of it, like in late 2006, on November 12th of 2006. The Bass Brothers definitely should have re-released that album of his with all of like the remastered songs and with all the samples cleared and whatnot, and maybe updated cover. I don't know. I mean, not make the cover look completely different than the original, but maybe like update it a little bit. I don't know. Or just re-release the same cover and then remaster all the songs, of course, and obviously, and get the like samples or beats cleared on all of those original songs or tracks, in other words, and like re-release it in both like physical form, as in like on CD, vinyl, and cassette tape in like all stores, but also on all digital stores like MP3 or eMusic or Apple iTunes or Amazon Music, which I'm sure is also MP3. I don't know, but like on all digital stores back in the 2000s, on November 12, 2006, that album of his definitely and rightfully deserved to have a re-release, a remaster and re-release of that whole entire album. And that was a missed opportunity on both Eminem's and the Bass Brothers' part by not re-releasing that very first album of Eminem's and remastering all the songs or tracks, in other words, and also, and of course, re-releasing it on digital stores, not just on like physical form, as in on CD, vinyl, and cassette tape, but also digital stores as well. That would have been a dream come true. But sadly, none of that happened, and it should have. And also, just to put one last thing in before I end this video, it should have also released, his Infinite album, Eminem's Infinite album, should have also received a 20th year anniversary re-release of that album on November 12th of 2016. And it should have gotten, say, maybe some unreleased songs for it, which would have been really fucking dope. Like, for the 20th year anniversary of that album of his, they could have, you know, released 6 unreleased Infinite Eminem songs from that era, or also like freestyles and instrumentals or some shit like that too, for at least some of the songs or tracks, in other words, on that album of his. And for the 20th year anniversary of Eminem's Infinite album, they could have also remastered the music videos. And when it comes to the music videos, when the album was originally released, you know, the Bass Brothers and Eminem could have easily put together at least underground style quality music videos that would not have looked that good, of course, upon original release. Obviously, they would have been like really low quality, low resolution or whatever, and they would have been made, you know, cheaply as possible. But when re-releasing the album for the 20th year anniversary on November 12th of 2016, the Bass Brothers could have remastered all those music videos if they would have made music videos for at least some of the songs on that album of his, such as Infinite, Tonight, Maxine, and Searching. Those 4 songs I definitely wish more than anything would have got and received music videos made and released for those 4 songs off of that album of his. And I wish that upon the original release of that album of his on November 12th of 1996, that he would have had 14 songs on that album of his, and then on the 10th year anniversary on November 12th of 2006, that it would have gotten a re-release for the 10th year anniversary, remastered all the songs, got the samples cleared on all of them, and re-released on physical form for CD, vinyl, and cassette tape, and on all digital stores. And same deal with the 20th year anniversary of his Infinite album. So there were just so many missed opportunities when it came to Eminem's very first underground debut hip-hop rap album, Infinite. And I am extremely pissed off at Eminem and the Bass Brothers for not putting and releasing 14 songs on that album of his when he originally released it way back on November 12th of 1996 at the age of 24, and that there wasn't any music videos made or included for any of the songs on that album of his, and that the Bass Brothers didn't re-release that album of his on the 10th year anniversary on November 12th of 2006 on physical form and digital form, and that it didn't receive a 20th year anniversary re-release on November 12th of 2016, and also release some unreleased Eminem Infinite songs or tracks, in other words, which would have been a dream come true, and also just very thoughtful and considerate and generous on their part. But sadly, none of that shit happened. So there were just so many missed opportunities, even when it came to that very first album of Eminem's. But that's all I wanted to say in today's video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.